The New Tech Times, a video magazine for the electronic age. In this edition, artificial intelligence. You can teach machines to add, but can you teach them to think? The Playboy Channel, a public controversy over pay cable. Later, a commentary from Ralph Nader, and a profile of a doctor who farms with the help of a computer. All in this week's New Tech Times.
The New Tech Times is brought to you through a grant from Wausau Insurance Companies. Times change. Wausau works.
Hi, I'm Nicholas Johnson. Humans have always been challenged and a little overwhelmed by their technology. Remember that song about John Henry, the steel-driving man pounding spikes in the railroad? Well, he wanted to prove he was better than the newfangled steam drill, and he did it. But then he laid down his hammer and he died. Well, now it's the computer. But the stakes are higher, as we're matching brains, not brawn. I have a program for my home computer that plays chess and beats me every time. Now, does this mean my machine can think? Well, scientists have long been intrigued with developing computers that can act on their own. And here's reporter Ken Munt with our story about what scientists call AI, or artificial intelligence.
It's 9:40 p.m.
If you're suffering from high-tech anxiety, the good news is that we're still in charge. When it comes to computers, we still do the thinking, and our fingers still do the walking. For now.
108 pounds.
But into a world that already knows artificial sweeteners and artificial coloring comes artificial intelligence. The effort to make computers truly smart, capable of independent, original thought. Roger Schenck is chairman of the Yale Computer Science Department and also founder of Cognitive Systems Incorporated.
The major problem in getting computers to think is trying to find out how it is that people think. We can get computers to add because we needn't worry about how people add. There are nice, simple mechanisms that are shown on, can be shown on an abacus, or lots of mechanical devices for pushing buttons and so on to make numbers add up. But if you want to get a machine to think and act intelligently, you have to have some sense of what that means. What does it mean to be intelligent? What does it mean to be thinking, to be creative, to learn?
In the first request, it asked, would you like to propose a synonym or correction? And I just typed in the synonym or correction.
Research in computer science often gets stuck on what seem to be the simplest problems. Marvin Minsky, a computer science professor at Massachusetts Institute of Technology and a pioneer in AI, believes the research is going slowly because so far, computers have been, well, stupid.
They only do what we tell them in some sense, and over the last 20 years, we've got to be able to tell them more and more and more, but although they can do many things that experts can do, they can't do many of the things that even a young child, a 3-year-old, can do. They have no general common sense. And so I'd say the central goal in research on artificial intelligence is to try to see how we can make machines do the kinds of things that if a person did, we'd say is intelligent.
But Roger Schenck says computers may soon be able to provide original information, thoughts if you will, and not just programmable information.
Show me that in box. Now the program's never heard the word box before, and so it asked me what I mean by that. Box is not understood. Would you like to propose a synonym? And I'll say yes. And the synonym I'll give it is dollars.
Here it has to understand that current assets is a synonym for CA, but here it has to realize that Y is not a synonym for CL, and then query for the appropriate words.
My belief is that artificial intelligence is at the stage where it could possibly produce products. So Cognitive Systems has made deals with banks and insurance companies and brokerage houses to provide information of the kind that people ask about what to invest in, or how to deal with IRAs or money market accounts, or what kinds of insurance policies and financial planning is relevant.
The basic idea behind this is that a user should be able to get back an answer to their question with whatever information they didn't specify filled in.
Okay, one thing I have not yet finished doing it. This is still all under development. We don't have an editor yet, which reports nicely.
Even though the problems persist, business is pushing the applications ahead. At the American Association for Artificial Intelligence conference in Washington, D.C. this summer, companies touted their AI products to skeptical computer scientists.
So we've had sort of a year's head start on both hardware and software development. You know, we have Fortran 77. Now, you may not be thrilled about Fortran programming, but I'm trying to get across the point that we have a large software development group.
One of those skeptical computer scientists is Professor Joseph Weizenbaum of MIT.
Is where you now have industrial interests and university research interests that intermingle in one way or another. Is the exercise of academic freedom under those circumstances still possible? For example, can graduate students who say are working for something which will be useful for cognitive systems, Roger Shank's firm, can they tell all other graduate students, can they tell their colleagues exactly what they're doing? Can they give a lecture about it in another university and so on and so forth? Or is there something proprietary about it?
In addition to the problem of conflicting loyalties, Professors Minsky and Weizenbaum say practical research in artificial intelligence is short-sighted, that solving small business-oriented problems today may take away from solving the big problems of tomorrow.
To understand the world better, to understand the brain better, will feed the practical applications. But the moral is, the more you have that in mind, the shorter your range is and the less imaginative. If you work on a problem in order to make an oil well drill work faster, then maybe that's all you'll get.
In the end, it doesn't make any difference. I mean, if solving problems and correctly analyzing chemicals and all that, if that makes a difference, then these programs make a difference. Okay. But it seems to me that at the moment,
this time when it processes the results,
the applications of AI are,
add this horse with memory.
you know, so to speak, marginal. You know, they may make some things easier and all that, but it's in a certain sense not terribly important.
That was the actual winner there, and you see that's the horse that it thought would win.
Roger Shank argues that solving the day-to-day problems is important, and in the end, may make all the difference in the world.
And I think I can provide information to people, which I think is one of the biggest problems we have in the world. People are ignorant, by means of having these smart machines available to them at their fingertips. In other words, today we have televisions available to people at their fingertips, and they aren't necessarily the smartest machines man can devise. But a computer that is friendly and easy to talk to and has lots of information at one's fingertips may be a very helpful teacher and maybe even settle marital disputes or advise on raising the children or give medical advice, a whole range of, say, home functions that would just make people's lives easier and more informed. And I think that's a noble goal, and I'd like to try to achieve it.
Whatever we may mean by intelligence, computers can help with decisions. My grandparents were farmers who took to new innovations with such enthusiasm, I'm confident they would have computers today. And it's that spirit that now enables less than 5% of our population to produce enough to feed 230 million Americans, much of the rest of the world, and have so much surplus we have to take land out of production. Now, I choose to locate my own electronic cottage in my home state of Iowa, where my family's still in agriculture. So you can see why I had a special interest in this week's story of a successful farmer's use of computers. Reporter Gary Probst has this profile.
Dr. Art Stienen is not your typical farmer. He's in agriculture because he claims other investments can't touch the returns he receives from farming. He's been making hefty profits from cash crops and cattle during years when most farmers have barely been able to break even. Stienen is a semi-retired radiologist who spends much of his time managing 23 farms. He started with just one piece of land in the mid-1960s. He says it's been a real challenge because he knew nothing about the business.
In farming, you're shooting at such a moving target. There's production changing with the vicissitudes of the weather and the price changing as the markets fluctuate. It was easy to get into potentially disastrous farm enterprises.
Stienen tried to turn a profit by relying on the advice of traditional farmers and experts from a Chicago bank. In spite of that, he was losing money. So he turned to his hobby, computers. He found that one of his largest investments was a waste of money.
We built an expensive feedlot in the early years of the enterprise, and for some reason or other, I just never could show a profit on it. So once I started analyzing the numbers and getting a profit matrix, I could see that I was never going to make any money at that enterprise. So the best thing I could do was lock the gate.
The doctor made his computer his advisor. He could plug in numbers to show the potential effect of any price fluctuation or expense. Some years, the numbers pointed towards production of one commodity. Some years, the computer told him to back off.
Because if you saw nothing but negative numbers on the screen or on the printout, you knew it was something you shouldn't be doing.
One year, the numbers told him to put up grain bins. He took advantage of a government program where he was paid to store corn. Using that in conjunction with price fluctuations, he claims to have produced a 1,500% profit in just 5 years. During other growing seasons, Steenan says he saved thousands of dollars by making the right moves. He claims that he would never have grown from 1 to 23 farms without his electronic implement. He now produces a package of farm computer programs, and he believes that even a farmer with a few hundred acres can make the computer pay dividends.
Most people think that a computer is used to neaten up your records. And people like to write nice records, but they don't want to pay $3,000 or $4,000 to get them. Really, records only tell you what you've done wrong after it's too late. What you have to have is decision-making software that tell you up front, don't do it. You can justify the cost on the first time you use it. You can pay for it that afternoon.
One of the most common questions I get after a public lecture is, what computer should I buy? My usual response is to ask, well, what do you want it to do? Because the answer is different for a farmer in the Midwest than a financier in New York. It's different for a musician than a novelist. It turns out there's no substitute for spending a little time doing research in your local library. But the consumer issues aren't limited to features and prices. In the consumer's unending battle in the jungle called a marketplace, will computers be used against us or on our behalf? Well, with some views on that subject, here's an old friend and colleague of mine, consumer advocate Ralph Nader.
Each time a new technology comes to market, for example, atomic energy or computers, the gee whiz hardware boosters seem to dominate. They tell us that atomic energy is going to solve all our problems, going to give us power too cheap to meter, is going to power our automobiles. The computer advocates say that it's going to increase productivity, it's going to produce more efficiency and more jobs. The television boosters told us many years ago that it was going to usher in a year of enlightenment and an era of information plenty. Well, it doesn't turn out that way because the hardware is not enough. Technology has not got its own imperative. It has to reflect certain social uses and social purposes. And when it comes to computers or atomic energy or television, it's good to look at it from a consumer perspective, not just from the perspective of the corporations who are trying to sell these technologies and make a lot of profit from them. That's why in the current discussion of computers, we have to look at why computers for so many years have only served the ends of sellers, of corporations, and how little there has been in terms of applying computers for use by consumers themselves to get information rapidly about the best auto insurance policies or the best food products or the best cars. And I think the big question coming in the 80s is to get away from so much emphasis on the gee whiz hardware booster approach and to put some more emphasis on the question, for what purpose are these technologies being produced, sold, and used?
Speaking of consumer issues, how about your right to control the content of local TV? That's one Ralph Nader and I spent a good many years battling. Now material that couldn't ever have found its way onto a local station is coming into your living room by cable. Well, it may be full-time religion or government, sports, news, movies, music. There are some 40 or 50 satellite programming services, but one of them is the Playboy Channel. Here's our report.
The man who lives in this house would like you to share his philosophy of life. His daughter would like you to pay for the privilege. And their company would like to reach as many customers as possible by offering that philosophy to you on cable television.
Well, it's Playboy's opportunity to take the style and the humor and the loyal readership of the magazine and really deliver that same product in another medium.
It's called the Playboy Channel. We can't show you everything, but here's an edited glimpse of what they'd like to sell you.
It's the Disney Channel for adults. It's an erotic, sensual, fun, sexy kind of service.
And the fact that it's available in people's homes instead of having to go to the Pussycat Theater, which most people would not necessarily want to have to go to, I think makes a big difference, because people are interested in things that are fun and sexy, but they're interested in sharing that with somebody that they care about in their home and not necessarily with somebody wearing a raincoat next to them in a movie theater.
Who watches the Playboy Channel? About 500,000 subscribers to this pay cable service.
We sort of presumed that it would tend to be a male experience as the magazine is, and we might get a little bit of female viewership, but not much. And the truth is that about 20% of our subscribers are actually single women, and another significant percentage, about 40%, are couples.
But programming the Playboy Channel for this audience is not so easy to do.
The hard part of this job is that there are only a few people in the entire world who know how to make erotic visual material. And there's certainly even less who know how to make erotic visual material with wit and style.
It's Foreplay, a sitcom Playboy style.
And the reason for going to all this trouble? Corporate profits.
We are now at 500,000 subscribers. And if we, in fact, are able to maintain our rate of attracting, say, 15% of basic cable subscribers, well, that number is supposed to be up in the 40 to 50 million figure in the not-too-distant future. The economics of 4 or 5 million subscribers paying on average, $7 or $8 a month for the channel, obviously, you can do the math, and it's a very lucrative business.
But there's trouble at the mansion because not everyone is eager for the Playboy Channel. Last May in Cincinnati, the Playboy Channel was offered by the local cable company. Soon after, Warner Amex was indicted by the grand jury for pandering obscenity. The channel was temporarily discontinued, and Pastor Jerry Kirk wants to make it permanent.
I think the people of America have had it. I think they're fed up to hear with the way that so many of the leaders of the media are promoting their convictions about family life and sexuality.
Here's a look at the sexy side of life with Sexcetera, the news according to Playboy.
The Playboy Channel promotes the philosophy of the Playboy magazine, and the Playboy magazine has lent respectability to the startling growth of the avalanche of pornography.
That's just a word, and you could say pornography about anything you want if you want to stop somebody from doing something.
We don't attempt to portray the whole realm of sexuality, would not cover, S&M kinds of subjects at all, but very much from a point of view that when people are watching it together, which is more often true than not, then it should be kind of a nice prelude to intimacy. It should be something that people feel good about, that makes them feel good.
Frankly, after studying this for a year and a half, I've come to realize almost everybody wants to draw the line somewhere. The question is it partial nudity? Is it nudity? Is it heterosexual intercourse on tape? Is it homosexual forms of intercourse? Is it group sex? Is it child pornography, bestiality, or snuff? You know, where do you want to draw the line? Everybody wants to draw the line somewhere.
But other people in Cincinnati would rather make that decision for themselves. Will Gates is challenging the out-of-court settlement that is keeping the Playboy channel off the local cable system.
But here is something you subscribe to, just like subscribing to a magazine. And someone's coming and saying, hey, this thing that you just subscribed to, you can't have. We just don't think you can handle it. The community says you can't handle it. Well, I don't feel that the community has the right to tell me what I can handle and what I don't.
So we're not saying to people they can't see things in the privacy of their homes. We are saying the state law that's against the pandering of obscenity is to be enforced. It's a good law. It's proper. People ought not to make money selling this kind of material. So that's what we're saying.
And it's not an obscenity issue. It's a First Amendment issue as far as I'm concerned at this point. And whether it was the Playboy channel or the prevention of a liberal from talking or a conservative from saying what he wanted to say, it's the same thing. I'm being denied a right to hear something, view something. It's secondary that it happens to be obscene, or may be obscene, because it hasn't been proven that it was obscene.
The Playboy channel, it's raising corporate hopes, cable headaches, and community controversy about adult entertainment in the New Tech Times.
If you were troubled by that report, you can be grateful for what we edited out. The prospect of pornography on cable could just turn out to be that industry's time bomb. Just one more example of the decisions that are forced on us by the new technology. But whether it's the Playboy channel or Saturday morning cartoons, a major complaint about television is its passivity. Now, video games at least involve some interaction, and now there's a new form of home entertainment, interactive stories. Here to tell us about them is columnist and critic Tim Onosko. Hi, Tim.
Hello, Nick.
How different is this interaction? We think of television, radio, phonograph, books as being essentially one-way, passive. Is this really a radical breakthrough, the kind of thing that comes along once every 1,000 years or so?
Well, I think only time will tell that. But certainly, new media like the video disc and even the personal computer are opening up brand new opportunities for storytelling.
Tell us a little more about the video disc. How does it differ from the other forms of entertainment we're used to?
Well, like a phonograph record, the disc has information organized in bands. And just like a phonograph record, you can move from one band to another out of sequence. In other words, you don't have to watch a movie from beginning to end or listen to something from beginning to end. You can jump around inside, and this gives storytellers kinds of new ways that they can spice up stories, present them in different manners, and let you choose and pick the way that you want to see a story presented.
Or do you have an example here, maybe?
Well, one example is what we've got up on the screen. This is a disc called Many Roads to Murder that's available now for consumers. It's set up like a game, and you can see a mystery story in any one of 16 different ways, and the players in the game choose the paths that they take. Here's just one example.
That's where I'd start if I were the police.
Lenore?
That's where I'd start.
And then the disc will tell us some more information and then ask us for a decision. We'll go to another section on the disc and make more decisions, then even go to an investigation file where you'll see single frames of text. For example, here's an interview. Here's evidence in the case.
Gee, these are nice. Where'd you get these?
I must have picked them up yesterday at the nightclub.
During the day, there aren't any matches on the tables.
How did you know that?
I was guessing, really.
Well, that really is quite a different way of getting a mystery story, I've got to admit. You also mentioned the home computer. Do you have any examples of that with you?
Well, I think that the mystery actually works better on a personal computer. These are two interactive novels put out by a company called Infocom. One is called The Witness, the other one is called Deadline. And
now, they look like records, too. What form do they take?
Well, they come on a floppy disk, And really, they are just text on a video screen connected to your personal
Now, what's
computer.
interactive? I mean, explain this to me. What do you mean by an interactive novel or story?
In this case, you, the player at the keyboard, become one of the characters in the story, and you can ask questions
Do you
of other
write
characters.
text? Do you ask?
You can type in complete English sentences, and the computer will understand what you're talking about. And the way that you ask questions of other people in the story even determines the kinds of answers that you get. If you're rude to someone, they may clam up on you, for example.
Well, how could that work? I don't understand that.
Well, the authors of these games were involved in artificial intelligence and understand how to take sentences apart using a computer program, and then have constructed lots and lots of different alternatives within the program that can take you into little tiny corners that you may discover one time and may not be able to get back to the next time you play the game.
So it is some analogy then to adventure, those computer games where you try to find the treasure and that sort of
These are much, much more advanced than
No, I
standard
understand, but I mean,
adventure
it's that kind of branching.
It's similar, except that there are differences here that are difficult to describe. These are really little living worlds inside the computer, and they're quite entertaining. They're very, very well done.
Thank you, Tim. Well, that's our report for this week. Artificial intelligence, computers on the farm, the Playboy channel, interactive mysteries. The examples of the new technology are endless. So join me here next week when we'll again explore together this new electronics environment in which we live.
The New Tech Times has been brought to you through a grant from Wausau Insurance Companies. Times change. Wausau works. For discount information and your free copy of How to Buy a Home Computer, send $1 to The New Tech Times, 821 University Avenue, Madison, Wisconsin, 53706.